Hamburg, how we doing? Come on, how we doing? It's great to be here. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and content marketing, and LeBron James, if you know who that is. But we're going to have fun talking about how to build a content brand. So what I'm going to start with is an experiment. So what I want you to do is, when I call these out and you do them for your business, you create original content for your business in this form, I want you to raise your hand and keep it raised. Okay, here, we're going to do this fast. Print or electronic magazine, who does that? Okay. Newspaper, keep raised, keep your hands up. Blogs or articles for your business. An e-newsletter, anyone do an e-newsletter? Keep them raised, keep them raised. A podcast, an event or conference, white paper or ebook, webcasts, webinars, anything on YouTube. You create original content for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and anything else. Okay, everybody's hands are raised. Okay, you can put your hands down, thank you. You're all creating original content for your business. Now, before I get to this, how many, without a doubt, 100%, you know for a fact that you are generating revenue with your original content? 100% you know. Anybody raising their hands? Okay, we got one here. We got one here. Okay. Thank you to the 5 of you who raised your hands. Here's the problem that we have right now. Every one of us in our enterprises are creating content, but we don't know if it's actually doing anything. Are we wasting our time? Should we be doing something else? So what I want to talk about is this idea of the content brand. We had an opportunity to look at hundreds of cases from all over the world on who was successful using content marketing to drive revenue in their business. And we dissected each one of these cases, and we found, unbelievably, that each one follows the same 6 steps. And this is what I'm going to go over here with this. I'm going to break each one down as we go, because I want you to take a look and see that this is a huge opportunity for all of us, that you can use original content to actually drive revenue in your business. So the first one is, we're going to start, first step is the sweet spot. What is the sweet spot? It's the intersection between something that you're an expert at in your organization, some knowledge or skill that you have, and on the other side, what is your audience's pain point or their passion point? And we fit those together, we figure out, okay, that's the sweet spot that we can create content around. You all have a sweet spot. You may not have written it down, but you have one. Let me give you an example. So this is John Deere's The Furrow magazine. So The Furrow is John Deere's content brand. They started this print magazine, now print and digital magazine, in 1895, and it's still being produced today. If you said, Joe, who's the largest media company in the farming and agricultural industry? I'd say it's not a media company. It's John Deere, 1.5 million subscribers, 40 countries, 14 different languages. It's amazing what they've done. Now, what is John Deere's furrow sweet spot? Well, on the one side, John Deere knows more about agricultural and technology than maybe anyone in the world. And on the other side, they're figuring out, okay, we're targeting farmers. So what are farmers challenged with? How do we hire the right people? How do we buy the right technology? And they put that together in their sweet spot, and 120 years later, you have the Furrow magazine still going strong. Okay, so that's very simple. Most people stop there, but they don't go on to the content tilt. This is the most important part of the 6 steps. So if you're gonna fall asleep, don't do it here. Do it after I talk about this one. So the content tilt. So what happens is we think, okay, great, we're going to stop at our sweet spot. We really know this area. We know our customers are challenged in this other area. Let's create content about it. The problem is every one of your competitors are doing the same thing. So what happens is you're creating content that's exactly the same as everything else out there. You have to find a content tilt. You have to find an area of differentiation that you can break through all that content clutter out there and actually be different. So how do you find your content tilt? Let me give you an example of what a content tilt looks like. So this is Anne Reardon. Anne is known as the baking queen of Sydney, Australia. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she wanted to start a food blog, video blog. She said, how do we do this? How do we get this thing going? So she was so excited. She started to dabble in it. She got 100 subscribers. in January of 2012, and today she has over 3.5 million subscribers. It's a multi-million-dollar content brand. It's really amazing what's happened. Well, how did she get there? She created a content brand. How to cook that? This is the one that's on YouTube. And what is she blogging about? What are her videos about? This is a camera that's good enough to eat. It actually is good enough to eat. It does everything but take a picture. And it went super viral on YouTube. Here's a Snickers bar that's over 2 kilograms. Anybody hungry for that right now? Isn't that something? So it's a life size. And this one this had millions and millions of downloads. This is before Instagram changed their logo. But she took a chocolate mousse cake, and inside is a replica of the Instagram logo. I'm really unfortunate that Instagram changed their logo. I like this one better. But Anne's content tilt, what did she do? She had the sweet spot. That wasn't the problem. Everybody has a sweet spot. She's a food scientist. She's a dietitian. She knows this. What was her content tilt? She focused on impossible food creations. She wanted her audience to say, wow, how did Anne do that? That's amazing. And nobody else was doing that at the time. So she just blew up, and she's been really, really successful. So let's say that you find your content tilt. What do you do? What's the next step? What you want to do is create a content or an editorial mission statement. So here's Digital Photography School. And if you go on Digital Photography School's website, you go right to their About Us page, and here's their content mission statement. Welcome to Digital Photography School, a website with simple tips to help digital camera owners get the most out of their cameras. So there's 3 parts. So when you create this, you want to first say, okay, what's my core target audience? A sliver of who you're trying to content. What's the core audience? Digital camera owners in this example. What are we going to deliver? Simple tips. What is the outcome for the audience? This is the most important thing. Every piece of content you should have, what is the outcome for the audience? Not what you want to sell, not that you want to drive more leads, not that you want to sell more products. It's focused on the audience and their needs. And in this case, he wants them to get the most out of their digital cameras. So you want this to be editorial-led, not marketing-led, because it's about the audience. Okay, now we go on to step 3, building the base. The first 2 steps, you haven't created any content yet. When we go into most enterprises, what happens is they start at step 3. They're like, let's just start creating content. Let's put it on every channel we can possibly think of. What we want to do is stop here and say, okay, what makes the most sense? How are we going to strategically create content? And we looked at all the examples of successful content marketing success studies all over the world, and we found that this is the formula. Instead of putting our content on every channel possible, we're going to focus on one content type. Is it audio? Is it video? Is it textual plus image? One main platform. Is it YouTube? Is it iTunes or Spotify? Is it my blog or website? Consistent delivery. Most enterprises we go in and talk to, they're creating their content. They're sending out their e-newsletter whenever they can. Their videos go up whenever they have time or whenever they have the resources. That's not going to work. It has to be consistent. If you send out a weekly e-newsletter, it has to go out weekly at the same time, every week, and then a long period of time. If you said, Joe, I really like this content brand, content marketing thing, but I only have 3 to 6 months, what should I do? Should I expect anything in 3 to 6 months? And my answer to that is, you should not expect anything in 3 to 6 months. If your timeline is 3 to 6 months, go do something else. Go buy advertising. Go interrupt people. But if you want to build an asset and build relationships with your customers like never before, you need to expect minimum 9 months in all the cases we looked at, on average 12 to 18 months. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is why some companies should not be creating their own content, because it takes time. It is not a campaign. At Content Marketing Institute, we started in 2007, what became CMI. And for the first 24 months, all we did every day was put out a blog post, textual plus image content on our own blog, 5 days a week. It took us 24 months until we were able to monetize it. And then this platform, 2 years after that, was able to generate $10 million. But it takes time. We have to build a minimum viable audience first, and you do this through one content type, one platform, consistent delivery over time. All right. Now what are we going to do? The most important thing is we have to build an audience. We don't just want engagement, we want to actually build the audience. All right, so let's look at our friends at Facebook. So here's Volkswagen, and they have 34 million people following them on this Facebook page. That's pretty good, right? That's great. If you're the social media manager at Volkswagen and you put a status update here, how many of those 34 million are going to see it? Less than 1%? Less than 1% of 1%? It's 0.1% is the average. Now, it didn't used to be that way, right? Facebook changed the rules. They said, no, you don't get that access for free. You're going to have to pay for it. And we all did a very good job at paying for it. So whose audience is that? Is that Volkswagen's audience? No. Volkswagen is renting that audience. It's Facebook's audience. And we have to keep that in mind. It's not bad to use Facebook, but you got to know we don't have any control over what happens in that channel. So what I want you to do is focus on subscribers as your key metric, specifically email subscribers, believe it or not. Now, here's my very sophisticated yay boo scale for subscriber hierarchy. Now, first of all, these are all good. I want all of them. I want subscribers in every one of these channels. But they're not all the same. They're not all equal. Everything below print subscribers, you don't control. iTunes could take away your rights at any time. Apple could say, no, I'm done with that. You're not going to get that. Twitter could do the same thing. We've seen what Facebook's done. So what we want to do is, if we're going to build subscriberships and audiences in those channels, we want to move up the chain and go to print and email subscribers. Now, you're probably saying, Joe, this is OMR. This is a pretty savvy digital conference, and you're talking about email. Absolutely. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But to make it work, you actually have to have a truly amazing e-newsletter. And I think if you would look at your own newsletter, a lot of people don't want to read their own newsletters because they're that bad. But if you look at your own newsletter, is it truly amazing? Because if it's not, it's never going to break through all that clutter. It has to be amazing. If you're not getting, let's say, 15% or greater open rate on your e-newsletter, you've got a problem. You should look at your e-newsletter. Now let's see what BuzzFeed did. BuzzFeed, 2012, 2013, one of the fastest growing media companies on the planet. What happened in 2014? They ran into problems. Why did they run into problems? Because Facebook started sharing their content for free all over the place. Facebook changed their algorithm, and then the BuzzFeed executive said, oh my God, we don't own that audience. We can't control that. Our business model is broken. So the executive team got together and said, what do we do? Let's build e-newsletters based on what our customers' needs are and passion points are. And they started creating all these e-newsletters. So you've got a book newsletter, you've got dog a day, cat a day. For those people out there that want a dude a day in your inbox, you could see famous German movie star or Brad Pitt or Channing Tatum or whoever in your inbox if that's what you go for. But they were able to build that, and in 2014 added 1 million opt-in email subscribers. It's gone gangbusters since then, and they've been able to monetize this platform really well. Now I believe in BuzzFeed's media platform. So we're focusing on subscribers. Now and only now should you focus on, now we're going to do diversification, and we're going to go to different channels. So let's look at Sony's Alpha Universe. That's their content brand, is Alpha Universe, and they started with a basic blog article format. So they created textual plus image content on their blog that they own. Then they said, okay, we've got a minimum viable audience. That's working well. Now we're going to launch a podcast series. Now we're going to launch some in-person events after that. And then we're going to launch our online training university, all targeted to enthusiast photographers. It's done really well. But they built the one platform first, and then they diversified, just like every great media company has done. So you're probably thinking, okay, great, that's wonderful, Joe. Thank you for showing me this. But we really need to make money. We really need to drive revenue. Well, once you go through these 5 steps and what we've seen through all the cases, now we can do some really interesting things with monetization. Here's Aero Electronics. Aero Electronics does over 25 billion euro a year, Fortune 200 company. They sell electronics equipment. mostly to big businesses. They also own over 50 different content brands that they have either created themselves or purchased from media companies. And if you said, okay, who's the largest publisher, media company in the electronic space, I would say it's not a media company, it's Arrow Electronics. They reach 90% of their audience that they have an opt-in content relationship with. It's really unbelievable. The better part is, not only are they driving new product and service sales through this, they're also profitable in and of itself on each one of those brands. So it's generating, they don't need a marketing budget. They're generating their own revenue and profit from this. So these are the kinds of things that are going to be happening. These are what Amazons and the Disneys of the world are doing. Why does John Deere create the Furrow magazine? Because they know that those people that read the Furrow magazine are more likely to buy John Deere products. Why did we launch Content Marketing Institute? We were able to leverage Content Marketing World as our event, which became a 4,000-person event just a few years after we launched Content Marketing Institute. How about Salesforce? Launches Dreamforce. They get 150,000 people to San Francisco. Do they sell more software? Absolutely. But Dreamforce by itself is worth more than $1 billion. If they were able, they could just sell that off and it'd be worth that kind of money. But it's too valuable to them. They built an asset. Digital Photography School, which we just talked about, they generate millions of dollars selling these little ebook packages that have worked really well for them. We talked about BuzzFeed. If you're familiar with the Tasty brands, if you get the Tasty videos, well, they started launching all kinds of new products off of that. So they launched a printed, believe it or not, a printed cookbook. And so you could go on, you could pick your favorite recipes with this, and when the average price of this is about, let's say 40 euros or so, and they sold 100,000 of these in the first 30 days. And you can do the math on how much money that brought in. But that's what they were able to do because they had that email audience. And now they've also launched in the United States all kinds of smart cookers and apps and household appliances that you can find in any store. And I talked to one of the marketing managers that works at Kohl's, which is a shopping store in the United States, and they can't keep these on the shelves. It's unbelievable. TD Ameritrade, financial company. They're a stockbroker where you can have trades on futures and stocks. They launched a content brand called Think Money Magazine. And what they found out is that those traders, their customers that receive Think Money Magazine, trade 5 times more than those that don't. How valuable is that? What they're doing is they're creating a better customer by delivering communications that's not about them. And that's, I think, the key, is a lot of our content is about us. It's selfish content. The content that you're seeing in all these examples are not talking about their products and services. They're talking about how to solve the pain points, how to help their customers get better jobs and live better lives. So as I conclude this, I don't want you to stop doing any of these things. But if it's not working, you've got to look at all the waste that we're creating in original content. What I want you to do is look and do a content audit and say, maybe some of these things we should stop doing so that we're not mediocre at all of them, but we're truly great and we're truly the resource in our industry for one of these things. So what I want you to do is, if you haven't already done, go back to your content, look and figure out, okay, what is that sweet spot? And then second, what is your content tilt? What is that differentiation point? Do you actually have content that can break through all the clutter that's out there and get to your core target audience? Then we can build the base. So if you're creating all kinds of content everywhere, maybe it would make sense to focus on one channel and to be the resource in that one channel and one platform. Then we're going to harvest the audience. Then we're going to diversify. And then what's amazing is once you build a relationship with an audience like that, you can really sell them any product that you want to. Thank you very much.
You, Joe.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. They're all here to see me, not Ellie Goulding. So this is great.
What's happening in the US with the shoe industry? I mean, how are with these shoes?
Like
now
these?
you with these shoes. What's going on?
I got an orange shoe. I have probably 15 pairs of orange shoes.
Seriously?
Like these. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you got it.
Is that content marketing? Are you doing that on purpose?
You were just talking about your shoe game. I mean, you gotta. Yeah, I've got an orange thing. I mean, when I first did an international presentation in Belgium, this is in 2009, I did not wear orange to that speaking event, and I had 3 people come up to me that never met me before and said, Joe, why aren't you wearing orange? And I said, oh, I must have branded myself in orange, so now I wear orange everywhere. And
seriously, it's part of your personal brand.
I can't go to the, I mean, I don't, this sounds weird, but I can't go to the grocery store without wearing orange, or somebody will say, Joe, are you not feeling well? You're not wearing orange. I'm totally serious. It's terrible.
Okay.
I want to wear regular clothes again.
Okay, please, at the bar, somebody. Katharina.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
I got a question.
Sure.
We're talking about Raspberry Pis. I didn't really understand what that is.
Okay. Oh, the Raspberry Pi example. So the company is called Arrow Electronics. Raspberry Pi is one of the products that they sell. So what you were looking at was, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. You were looking at their website. So that's Arrow Electronics website that they sell all their electronics equipment. Then on the next slide, they have 52 or 53 different content brands, which are little media companies that they cover the entire industry, where they don't talk about Arrow Electronics brands, which are just like a business-to-business magazine, but they cover all the markets there. Now, each one of those, in and of itself, are profitable, but of course, they're also selling more Arrow Electronics products. So it's just interesting. I mean, I've been in media for over 20 years. If you would have done that 20 years ago, the industry would have said, you can't do that. That's church and state. That doesn't. Today, nobody seems to care as much anymore, especially with what's going on around the world and social media. So they're taking care of those brands. And I think that's what you have to remember. If you're going to target an audience like that or buy a media brand, you can't just start talking about yourselves or people are going to leave. The loyalty is very fickle. So you have to make sure that you keep their attention in the right way. Thank you.
Michael.
Why is YouTube at the bottom of your list?
To be honest, because YouTube's algorithm changes on an ongoing basis, and even if I would subscribe to a YouTube, maybe you guys can fill me in on this. This is how it goes. But YouTube does not necessarily show in subscriber order in one order, because sometimes they'll show you what they want you to see because they're trying to sell advertising, which there's nothing wrong with it. But the biggest thing on everything else that's on there, if YouTube decides that they want to change access or change their algorithm, you have no control over that. Now, I've got a lot of YouTubers that I know personally that love the channel. They do the same thing on Twitch. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I want to do is I want to hedge my bet and diversify and make sure that I have an email platform as well that I have some control over. And that's why you see on YouTube, subscribe here, but also, hey, would you subscribe to my own e-newsletter, go to my own site because you want to diversify that. It's YouTube's business. Obviously, you can do whatever you want with it, and any of those businesses can do what they want, and we just need to know it's a private business or private public. You have that decision, and we have our decision.
I want to ask a question for Sylvie, because I really care about Sylvie, and for some reason she's not asking the question, but she just said that 2 months ago, she started her own YouTube channel. She said she's a personal brand and selling fashion.
Yes.
Would you recommend?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Two weeks ago. Would you recommend for her to start a newsletter first and YouTube second, or the other way around?
You're probably doing the right thing. But what I would do is when you build up that audience on YouTube, then you start to get your own brand going. So you don't really necessarily have to worry about your own website right now. But when you get a big enough name on that channel and you've got all the subscribers going.
I have all that, but I just didn't have YouTube.
Oh.
And I thought.
So why are you starting on YouTube now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just felt like it. And yeah, I have my website, I have my brand, I have my Instagram, and my brand has their Instagram as well.
Yep.
So you should do a newsletter. Maybe a newsletter first.
I love YouTube, and I just think it's a possibility for me to show my audience and my following who I really am.
So you already have a big audience. So if I'm looking, let's say you create a quality e-newsletter, that's just another way that you can directly monetize that. So you don't have to go through another channel.
Yeah.
You can sell your own sponsorships right through that email channel, and it's actually not that difficult to sell sponsorships through that channel. You have a lot of control over it.
Yeah.
So that's why you might want to look at an e-newsletter to add to your revenue-generating component.
Yeah, because a newsletter sounds so old-fashioned, but it isn't, right?
Look at the most innovative companies in the world right now. I mean, the New York Times just launched another 12 or 13 newsletters this year. I think they're up to 50 or 60. because of the control.
Yeah.
The thing is, it has to be great. I mean, you got to get through all the clutter and spam, but some of the really great newsletters on New York Times are getting 40, 50% open rate, and they're selling out of inventory. Huge opportunity. So almost like back to the basics. It's really working.
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.